Okay, so this is Unit 3. We're gonna make sliced pears on a sugared puff pastry base. So we purchased the puff pastry base from the superstore, and then today we're gonna use half of them. So there are 2 packages in one box. We're just gonna use half. I will just take it out. Okay, I took it out finally. So instead of using flour to dust the table, this time we use some sugar. And then we're gonna again roll this pastry dough into a rectangle. So I just kind of dust the edge because the edge seems a little bit sticky to me right now. Okay, so again, if it's a roller, then you just roll them into like a rectangle. So just keep dusting them with sugar if you feel the top or the edges are sticky, because you really don't want the pastry dough to stick on the roller. So that is a rectangle for the baking pastry base. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna transfer this one into a greased baking sheet. Here we go. Then we're gonna use forks to like press some holes on top of the pastry base. Yeah, so it looks good to me right now. And then we will freeze them into the freezer for like around 15 minutes. Okay, so we can continue with sliced pears on a sugared puff pastry base. It's a super long name. So after this puff base is chilled in the freezer for 15 minutes, we just remove it. Move them out, and then we can put the sliced pear on. So as you can see, it is the sliced canned pear. I just use the paper towel to dry them before I put them into the puff base, because we don't want them to be like very liquidy. And keep in mind that you have to leave some space during the edges, because then we can fold them. Otherwise, it will not really work. Okay, so I kind of put the pears I cut on top of the pastry base. And then I still have some left over from that jar, and then I just decided to leave it because otherwise it's gonna be really full. So then we will sprinkle the brown sugar on top of the pears, and here, because we are out of the brown sugar in our lab, we just use like a golden sugar, so it's like have a slightly lighter color than the brown sugar, but it's okay. So we will just sprinkle that. We can tell it's gonna be a very sweet pie because there's actually a lot of sugar in there. Okay, somehow I'm just gonna stop at this point, even though I have some more sugar left, but I think that's gonna be really, really sweet if I put all of them in. So then we will put some cold butter on top of the pear. So they will melt when we actually baking them in the oven. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna fold the pastry into the center. So as you can see from here, we are gently folding them. So things look like that. It's good to me. So just make sure the edges are like can hold the pear and the butter, so there will not be so many liquid coming out during like baking. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna put this one into the oven within like bake for 20 to 25 minutes, and the oven is preheated to like 200 degrees. Okay, so the timer just go off, and then I'm gonna check the pear pie. I think it's ready. So, just put it up. And as you can see, the top pastry is like a golden brown color, and then inside the pear are melted. So it looks pretty good. And then what we're gonna do is the last step. We're gonna drizzle some like warm jam on top of the pie. So it's gonna be like that. Let's drizzle it. I just warm up this jam in the microwave for around like 30 seconds. So here it is, and then when it cools down a little bit, it is ready to serve. Okay, so this is unit 4. We're gonna make cream puffs. So here is like the ingredient: butter, flour, and water. So the first step, we're gonna put the butter and water together in a saucepan and bring them up to boil. So as you see, the butter is almost like melt, and then we will just pour the water in and give it a quick stir. So now like the water and butter is kind of separate, but don't be worried, after it heat up, it will become all mixed together. And then we will bring this water and butter mixture into like a rolling boil. So that's gonna take a couple of minutes. Okay, so now the water and butter mixture begins to like a rolling boil, and you can see it's boiling very hard. That is what we want. And then we will just put the flour all at once into this mixtures, and hopefully it forms a ball. If it's not, then we probably gonna start again. And then quickly stir it, like seriously hoping it forms a ball. Yeah, it seems to work. So, oops. So I will kind of remove them from the heat because it's like there's no more water in here. As you see, it forms like a bowl. So I don't need to repeat them again. We can directly process this to the next step. So do not wait for too long because we want them to still be hot, and then we add the eggs and other stuff into this bowl. I have a KitchenAid mixer again, so I will just put the bowl into that mixing bowl. And this time I'm using a different attachment, which just look like that. What we're gonna do is we're gonna mix the flour, butter, and water mixture with the eggs. And there are 4 eggs, and then we're gonna pour like 1 at each time. Okay, so I will turn the speed to like low, and I will pour the eggs in like 1 by 1. Here's 1, and I think the eggs are mixing really well with the like batter, so I will pour like 1 more. So we will just let them to mix together, and then later when the batter forms like a little bit of liquid texture, we can bring them out. So as you see, after like mixing, the texture became like kind of sticky, but not too liquidy. So that is what you want for your puffs. And now what we're gonna do, we're gonna transfer this batter or mixture into like a Ziploc bag. Or if you have like a vaping bag at home, you can use that as well. But in the lab, we don't have that, so we decided to use the vaping bag to like substitute it. And it works. So here we go. As you see, like I transfer all of them into a vaping bag. And I will just trying to press all the air out of the bag, and I will seal the bag on top. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut a hole through the edges, so later we can squeeze the batter out of the bag from this hole. And here is a baking pan. What we're gonna do is we're just gonna squeeze the batter on top of the pan. It is very important to have some foil paper or the wax paper on top of the pan. Otherwise, like pretty much your puffs just stick on the bottom. So now here is what I'm gonna do. Okay, that is one. Very sticky. So leave some space between each other because they're gonna kind of expand in the oven when you bake it. And another. Then if you want, you can kind of push them so they don't have like a sharp head. Then what we're gonna do is we already preheat the oven to 400, and then we'll put them into the oven for around 20 minutes.
Okay, so here are our cream puffs. They're looking lovely and high, and I've taken a knife and just poked a hole in the bottom. Maybe you can see it's kind of airy and light in there, and I'm going to use that to pipe in some pudding. So we've made just an instant vanilla pudding, super quick. Yeah, and then I've put it into a Ziploc bag, and I just cut a hole, probably the hole is a little too big, in the corner of the bag. And then I am going to place that end into the bottom of the cream puff and just squeeze gently to get the pudding inside the cream puff. So there you go. You can see the pudding is starting to kind of ooze out the bottom, so that means that I have filled it well.
Because the recipe didn't